OLED displays have a problem. No, I'm not talking about burn-in, but make sure to watch Caleb's recent video about that topic. I'm talking about the dilemma between a TV and a monitor, and it comes down to more than just the size of the screen. There's no better proof of that than the LG UltraGear OLED 45 or the 45GR95QE-B if you want the official name. It's huge, 44.5 inches to be exact, and larger than some OLED TVs we've seen like LG's recent OLED Flex. Make no mistake though, this is a monitor and a great showcase of what cinematic gaming and media can look like when built specifically for a desktop. But hey, before we get into the rest of the review, make sure to get subscribed and leave a like on this video. Cool? Thanks. Okay, the UltraGear OLED 45, what is it? It is a 44.5-inch ultra-wide monitor. That means it has an aspect ratio of 21:9 rather than the traditional 16:9. That alone makes it an option for PCs where you can find a lot more content that can fill a 21:9 screen. Beyond that, it comes with a super fast 240 Hz refresh rate, and of course it uses an OLED panel, so it has a super fast response time as well. So it's a high-end gaming monitor, great, but the real key here is that it comes with an aggressive 800R curve. Remember, the lower the number on the curve, the more curvy it actually is. And this is one curvy monitor. You should really only be sat back a couple of feet from it to get the most immersive experience possible. It's a far cry from something like the LG OLED Flex or Asus PG42UQ, where you can be sat back a few number of feet despite having a smaller screen overall. When sitting in the sweet spot, this is by far the most immersive gaming experience I've ever had. There's no question about it. It sounds cliche to get kind of sucked into the world of a game like Horizon Zero Dawn or Cyberpunk 2077, but the scale of the UltraGear OLED 45 really feels like it pulls you in. It fills your vision completely, and I gotta be honest, all these games that I test in, week out, I just wanted to keep playing them on the UltraGear OLED 45. It certainly helps that the HDR experience is unmatched, at least by traditional LCD monitors. It's easy to forget that this is a 240 Hz OLED panel and how much else the display has going on. With HDR on in a game like God of War, it has those inky blacks we all know and love from OLED. They're taken down a bit by the matte finish, so the HDR isn't quite as impressive as a TV with a glossy finish, but this aggressive a curve, you really want that matte coating to handle reflections on the screen. It's not just great HDR, the monitor is pretty color accurate as well. I measured a color error of 1.5, which is totally acceptable for an OLED panel, and it covered 96% of the DCI-P3 color space. I wouldn't recommend the monitor for creative work due to how aggressive the curve is though. You're basically screwed if you need to do anything with a straight line. There are some useful additions for gaming here outside of the panel too. First, the monitor is G-Sync compatible and supports FreeSync Premium, so you're getting variable refresh rate no matter what GPU you have. There's also a headphone jack under the display that has DTS Headphone X virtual surround sound built in, as well as an optical cable if you want to hook up speakers or a soundbar. You'll probably need to as well. Despite its size, the UltraGear OLED 45 doesn't include built-in speakers. You also get a pair of USB ports that you can use to hook up your keyboard and mouse, and although you don't have a ton of room for adjustment, you still get 20 degrees of swivel, 20 degrees of tilt, and 4.3 inches of height adjustment. At the very least, it's enough to get the monitor where you want while gaming. Oh, and there's a standard 100mm by 100mm mount, so you can ditch the stand completely and mount the monitor on the wall if you want. But now it's time to switch gears because the UltraGear OLED 45 is really a monitor of two worlds, and the second world looks a lot less impressive than the first. For starters, brightness. It's no secret that OLED monitors are dimmer, and honestly, I think that whole conversation is pretty overblown. But there's no denying that the UltraGear OLED 45 only hits around 200 nits of peak brightness, and despite LG claiming it hits 1000 nits for 3% of the screen, I only measured 780. That's not really the main problem here though. Versatility is, and that mainly comes down to the resolution. This is a 45-inch monitor, but it also carries the same 3440 by 1440 resolution as most 34-inch ultra-wide displays like the Alienware 34QD OLED. You're not going to see individual pixels unless you're sat really close to the display, but it definitely doesn't look sharp on the desktop either. That's where I start to run into issues because the desktop experience just does not hold up. The pixel density is too low for starters, and the aggressive curve means you'll often be moving your head to see multiple windows on screen. That's before we get into using OLED for desktop use, which carries its own set of problems. Though it's worth noting for anyone fearing burn-in that LG includes a handful of panel-saving features to prevent that from happening. It's also a bit hard to justify this display for console gaming. The HDMI 2.0 ports are capable of driving what consoles can deliver, short of 4K because, well, the display itself isn't 4K, and you get access to 2 HDMI ports alongside a single DisplayPort 1.4 connection. The console experience is mainly limited by the fact that you can't get a full 16:9 experience without black bars, even in the picture-in-picture modes. Finally, there's the control situation. If you watch my UltraGear OLED 27 review, you kind of know what's up here. There's only a single button on the monitor to control the menu, and that just opens up a quick access menu. Instead, you need to use the remote to access critical settings of the display. I had a lot of complaints about the remote last time around, and it seems some of those were misguided or flat out wrong. There's a screw blocking the battery cover, which some viewers pointed out might be a protection for children, and although the remote didn't include the battery with the UltraGear OLED 27, this one did. The bigger issue here, though, is that you need to use the remote to control the monitor. Without it, you only have access to the bare bones quick access menu. This is a monitor that desperately needs a joystick like basically every other display on the market. But let's get back to the main point here. Should you buy it? Yes, if you want it. I know that's not super helpful, but this is a display that carries a lot of caveats. It's awesome at what it does, but if you're looking for some more versatility out of a monitor that costs $1,500, yeah, you're not going to find it here. This is a monitor built for watching movies and playing games. It does a fantastic job at both, but everything else kind of takes a back seat. For most people, I'd recommend a display like the Asus PG42UQ or even an LG C2 OLED TV, the 42-inch model. And if you need ultra-wide, the Alienware 34QD OLED is still an awesome display. None of them can touch the UltraGear OLED 45 when it comes to cinematic gaming, but they all still provide really great gaming experiences while being a bit more versatile. But what do you think? Is a top-tier gaming experience enough to spend $1,500 on a display, or do you need a little more for that price? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure to get subscribed and leave a like on this video. All right, everyone, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.